Tonight, you'll probably check your phone one last time before bed. Maybe scroll for a few minutes, maybe an hour. Then you'll close your eyes, and somewhere between 7 and 9 hours later, you'll wake up and do it again. Your ancestors had a completely different relationship with the night, not just with sleep, with darkness itself. Because for 300,000 years, the night wasn't something you passed through on the way to tomorrow. It was its own world, with its own rules, its own dangers, its own rituals that no one alive today has ever experienced. And when you understand what actually happened between sunset and sunrise for most of human history, you'll never think about nighttime the same way again. Let's start at the moment the sun goes down. You are standing in open grassland somewhere in what is now Africa. You have no shelter with walls, no door to lock. The temperature is dropping fast, and somewhere out in the dark, things are moving. Leopards, hyenas, lions. Every single one of them can see in the dark. You cannot. Before fire, this is where the human day ended. When the sun disappeared, you climbed the nearest tree, pressed yourself against the bark, and you waited. Still, silent, hoping nothing noticed you. Fire changed that. The oldest evidence of humans controlling fire comes from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, roughly 1 million years ago. And what fire did to the human night is almost impossible to overstate. A campfire creates a circle of safety about 30 feet wide. Inside that circle, predators won't come. The light hurts their eyes. The smoke confuses their noses. The crackling sound breaks their nerve. Outside that circle, you die. That 30-foot circle of orange light was the entire human world after dark for thousands and thousands of years. But here's what most people miss about fire. It didn't just protect your ancestors. It gave them something no animal on Earth had ever had before: extra hours. Before fire, the useful day ended at sunset, maybe 10 hours in summer, as few as 7 in winter. Fire suddenly added 2 to 4 usable hours to every single night, and over hundreds of thousands of generations, those hours quietly changed what it meant to be human. Because your ancestors didn't waste them. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years sitting with the Jew/Honzi Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last groups on Earth still living something close to the original human lifestyle. She recorded every conversation, day and night, and what she found was a clean split. During the day, about 80% of all talk was practical. Who's hunting where? Which plants are ready? Complaints, disputes, logistics. Daytime was work, but the moment the sun went down and the fire came up, everything changed. 81% of nighttime conversations were stories. Not gossip, not planning, stories. Tales of people in distant places, myths about how the world began, jokes that made the whole camp shake with laughter. Adventures that had happened years ago, told and retold until everyone knew them by heart. Wiesner called firelight the birthplace of human culture, and she wasn't exaggerating. Think about what a story actually requires. You have to hold something in your mind that isn't physically in front of you, a person who isn't there, a place you've never been, an event that happened before you were born. You have to imagine it, feel it, pass it on. That is not a simple thing. Every other animal lives entirely inside the present moment, the fire in front of them, the hunger in their stomach, the sound in the grass. But around that fire at night, your ancestors learned to live inside time itself, past, present, and future, all at once. The campfire was the first classroom, the first theater, the first church. It's where humans learned to be human. But the night wasn't only fire and stories. There was something else happening, something that scientists only figured out in the last few decades, something that changes how you understand your own body right now. You were not built to sleep the way you sleep. In 2001, historian Roger Ekirch published a paper that shook the sleep science world. He had spent 16 years going through historical records, not just from one place or one era, across centuries, across continents. Prayer books from the 1400s, court documents, private diaries, medical texts, letters written by ordinary people who had no reason to lie. And in all of them, the same thing kept appearing: first sleep and second sleep. Before the industrial age, humans did not sleep in one long block. They went to sleep shortly after dark, slept for roughly 4 hours, then woke up, stayed awake for 1 to 2 hours in the middle of the night, and then slept again until dawn. This wasn't insomnia. This was just sleep. Normal, natural, human sleep. The only kind that existed for most of history. And what did people do during that middle of the night waking window? Everything. A French physician in the 1500s recommended that couples use this time to conceive children. He believed the body was calmer, more receptive. People visited neighbors. They lay in the dark and thought through problems. They interpreted dreams while the images were still sharp. Some wrote, some prayed. A doctor's manual from that same era called it the watch and described it as the best time of day for reflection and study. Now here's the part that should stop you. Science confirmed all of this, not from old documents, from a lab. In 1992, psychiatrist Thomas Ware at the National Institute of Mental Health took a group of volunteers and removed all artificial light from their lives. For 1 month, they experienced 14 hours of darkness every night, just like your ancestors before electricity. Within a few weeks, every single participant shifted into the same sleep pattern without being told to. 4 hours of sleep, 1 to 3 hours of quiet wakefulness, 4 more hours of sleep. Nobody suggested it. Nobody guided them toward it. Their bodies just did it, as if something ancient had been waiting inside them the whole time, buried under centuries of artificial light, and finally had room to breathe. But here's what Vare found when he measured their hormones during that wakeful period. Their brains were producing elevated levels of prolactin, the same hormone released during deep meditation, during states of profound calm. Their participants described the experience as peaceful, quietly alert, a kind of stillness they had never felt during ordinary waking hours. It wasn't just a gap between sleep cycles. It was its own state of consciousness. One that most modern humans have never experienced. One that your ancestors lived inside every single night for 300,000 years. Step outside of the fire circle for a moment. Not far, just to the edge where the light begins to fade. Listen. Your ancestors knew every sound the night made. The difference between wind moving through dry grass and something moving through dry grass. The particular silence that falls just before a predator gets close enough to spring. The calls of night birds that meant nothing was wrong. The sudden stopping of those calls that meant something was. This wasn't fear. Not exactly. It was attention. A deep, total, full-body attention to the world around them that most modern humans have never had to use. Researchers who study hunter-gatherer communities today describe a phenomenon they call the night watch. Even inside a sleeping camp, someone is always half awake, not assigned, not rostered, just awake, listening, checking. The lightest sleepers naturally cycling into alertness during the quiet hours, then drifting back down. The camp breathed as one organism. While some slept, others lay quietly in that prolactin-soaked wakefulness, thinking. And somewhere on the edges, the night watch listened to the dark. And above all of it, every single night, the sky. Not the sky, you know. On a clear night, far enough from any city, you can sometimes see the Milky Way as a faint smear of light. A suggestion. Something you have to squint to find. Your ancestors saw something else entirely. With no artificial light anywhere on Earth, the Milky Way didn't need to be searched for. It was simply there. A river of cold fire stretching from one horizon to the other. So bright it cast faint shadows. So detailed you could see individual clusters, the dark rifts, the dense center. Every single night of your life, from the moment you were old enough to look up, that was your ceiling. Researchers who take modern people to genuinely dark sky sites for the first time document something consistent. People cry, not dramatically, just quietly, without understanding why. There is a theory that this response isn't aesthetic, that it's something older than beauty. That the human nervous system, which evolved under that sky for hundreds of thousands of years, recognizes it somewhere beneath conscious thought. And responds to finally seeing it again the way you might respond to a place you haven't been since childhood. Not new, remembered. In 1667, Paris became one of the first cities in the world to install public street lamps. Louis XIV ordered it to reduce crime. London followed. Then cheaper candles. Then gas lamps. Then, in 1879, Thomas Edison commercialized the electric light bulb. And within a single generation, the night as humans had known it for 300,000 years was gone. Modern humans are now exposed to artificial light an average of 7 to 8 hours after sunset. That light, especially the blue light from screens, tells your brain it's still daytime. Melatonin production delays. Sleep fragments. The circadian rhythm that evolved over millions of years gets pushed back, then back again, until it barely resembles what it once was. Researchers have found that 1 week of camping with no artificial light resets the human melatonin cycle by nearly 2 hours. Just 7 nights. That's all it takes for 300,000 years of biology to begin reasserting itself. And the two-phase sleep. That quiet, reflective state between first and second sleep that Vare's subjects described as deeply peaceful. The state that your ancestors lived inside every night. It doesn't exist anymore. We replaced it with insomnia. And we treat insomnia like a disorder. A malfunction. Something to be medicated and corrected. But what if it isn't a malfunction at all? What if waking at 2 in the morning and lying there in the dark isn't your body breaking down? What if it's your body remembering, running a program 300,000 years old, looking for the quiet hours it was built to use, and finding nothing there but a phone screen and the low hum of a city that never goes dark? For most of human history, a night looked like this. The sun went down. The fire came up. People gathered close and told stories that held the world together. Someone laughed so hard they spilled their food. Someone else stared into the coals and thought about a person they had lost. Children fell asleep against their mothers while the adults kept talking. Then, hours later, the camp went quiet. And in the dark, people lay awake in a stillness that felt like nothing else. Not anxious, not restless, just present, thinking about their lives, listening to the night, watching the Milky Way move slowly overhead. Then they slept again,